sitting position where there's some mobility to her spinal column, right? As she breathes and she's sitting on a ball, that tiny little bit of movement from breathing keeps her spine in motion. This is going to be good for comfort. But the ball has to be the right size so that her knees are either level or a tiny bit higher than her, did I say knees? Her hips are level or a tiny bit higher than her knees. Her knees should not be higher than her hips. This is something Gene Sutton talks about. And the reason why is putting the knees up higher than the hips closes the inlet of the pelvis and kind of keeps the baby out of the pelvis a little bit at the end of pregnancy. Now, this doesn't matter at 34 weeks, but what I find is that it's not just about closing off this inlet by bringing this closer to the spine. It's also about having the mother sit on her sits bones so that the nice long psoas muscles that come over the leg sockets are lengthened, because when they're short, they cross right here, and when they're short, they hold the baby up and don't let the baby down. And they also can affect the mother's respiratory diaphragm and her comfort, her pelvic floor, her back. That's where, when you said back pain, we want to have the mother have some mobility, some full range of motion, and long, lengthy psoas so that she has more comfort in her back, more stability in her hips. It's range of motion first, a little bit of mobility, right? Some people like to call it exercise. I never like to exercise, Nick, but I like to be mobile. I like to fidget.
So, Gail, what are some other body positions that you'd recommend for working pregnant women? And what body postures would you recommend for them to stay away from?
Yes, well, we talked about sitting on the sits bones, so they're not sitting on the sacrum. As the sacrum then gets jammed up and it comes closer into the path of the baby with years of sitting there. And we want this to be a little bit mobile, right? So sitting on the sits bones, how we're designed to sit. We see from this hole that this is a very stable and strong place to put the weight. It's distributed equally. And so that's key. And then, so that means not slouching down into a C, not curling up, the shoulders together, the ribs pulled in by a tight bra, the back all curled up. We want to have some room in our bodies and some mobility, some motion. Walking is good, and I already talked about walking with flat shoes or soft-soled shoes, and really not stomping around, but really getting into a full stride.
I understand that when pregnant women sit in chairs, car seats, crossing their legs, this can change the shape of a pregnant woman's uterus. It might restrict the space for the baby to get into the